Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday.
Happy
Um,
Wednesday.
we have a special guest with us today. Joining us for our Parker Goes to the Movies movie chat is April Kauffman. Most of you know her well, but just wanted to introduce April. And April, thanks for joining me today on our talk of our last movie in our movie series.
You're welcome. Not a problem.
So,
Woo-woo.
this Sunday, we're talking about Disney's Soul. It's a pretty new movie. April, did you see it?
I have seen it twice because I will say I fell asleep the first time in parts and then I watched it again. And it was good. It's very good.
Lots of great music. That's kind of why I like the movie. Just has some really great music, and it really touches on some interesting pieces, I think, for us in our faith is thinking about purpose. Purpose is kind of one of those things that I think we're all looking for in life. What's my purpose? What's my meaning? A lot of times in the church, we talk about being in the will of God, trying to find out what God's will is for us. And so purpose is a really interesting thing. You were talking about your retreat this last week with kids and purpose. Share a little bit about that.
Yeah, we were having our discussion about relationship with God. And some of the kids, for middle schoolers, I was blown away with all the questions that they had. But one of the biggest things that came up was, do you think everybody on earth has a purpose? And I was like, yes. And I just truly believe that everybody has many purposes, and sometimes you have a moment where you know that, wow, that's where I was needed, and you might go through life and never know how your purpose is really helping others. I just know that there's times I said, you might say something to somebody in the hallway and have no idea how much that person needed to hear that, and you'll never know, but that was part of your purpose. So I
Yeah.
just believe there's so many times in life we're called to either say things or do things or be there for people that fulfill a lot of our purpose. So
Well, I think that's like a huge part of this movie. I mean, you have Mr. G, who is a middle school band teacher,
yeah,
Joe Gardner, and he has this desire, this love of jazz, and he does not feel fulfilled as a teacher. He really wants to be on the stage for jazz and play for people. That is like what he thinks his purpose is. And
right.
so when he finally gets that job, he ends up falling down a manhole, and like his body is still alive, but his soul leaves his body, and he's like going into the great beyond, or he's dying. And he decides, no, it's not my time yet. I still have to do this purpose. And so all this craziness happens, but what he finds is that what he thought was his purpose for life was really just a love that he had, but it was all these other little moments, these moments in life of teaching kids, of helping them find their love, that really helped them find their purpose. So that's kind of the thing that really stuck out for me in this movie, is how a lot of times we think our purpose has to be grand. You know, we have to be able to save all the people. We're going to go to Africa and we're going to build all the wells. So when we are living our normal lives, we kind of sometimes feel like this is it. Like, I don't think this is what God had for me. But I think, like you said, with the kids, it's those everyday little moments that is kind of our purpose in life.
Yeah,
So
because I just think it's interesting. Like you said, everybody feels like we're supposed to be out doing mission, 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 and in society doesn't allow us to do that because you still have to go to work and earn a paycheck and support your family. And so it is hard to feel like you have a purpose here. I thought movie makers do this all the time, but I thought Pixar did a great job because when Joe, he's just living his mundane life, But all of a sudden he has this opportunity, and as soon as this opportunity happens for him, like to get to play with this famous, I don't remember who it was. Do you remember her name? What's her name?
Dorothy Williams, is that
Dorothy
right?
Williams, right? Yeah, so he gets the opportunity to be the pianist for her. And at that moment in the movie, things just are never settled. It just, he goes, from, getting put in the hospital and having this out of body experience to rushing and not going to the beyond, and he gets put in the before, and it makes the movie watcher feel unsettled, and because he was just rushed and frantic and anxious, and he was, because he just felt like, I want this opportunity, and he was just kind of like all over the place, and it made me feel all over the place, and I didn't like how it made me feel, and it was making him feel. But then towards the end, when he realizes, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie, but he ends up, instead of the beyond, he goes to the before. And his purpose, and I don't know if you're going to talk about this in a second, Cody, but he's to help this little soul who doesn't want to go to Earth, number 22. But towards the end, when he realizes his purpose, are you going to talk about that? I don't want to spoil it, but
No, go for it.
anyway, so he realizes this little soul needs his help, and really he's trying to use this little soul to get himself back, actually. And it's still unsettled, and it's frantic, and it doesn't feel good. But at the end of the movie, where he decides this little soul is more important than himself, things feel more calm and peaceful. And that's where it spoke to me, is like, when we decide to put others first, things fall into place. But it never felt good or comfortable for me or for Joe in the movie until he was like, you need this. And everything felt calm then. And it was like, oh, this is his purpose, is to, if we put others before ourselves, it kind of falls into place, and God is like, there you go.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I hadn't even thought about how I had felt in the chaos of Joe. And it's kind of to that desperation of like, I have to have this. Like,
Yeah.
this has to be it. And I'm going to make everything happen so I can have this.
Yep.
And almost like forcing that as your purpose. And it totally, you could see through the movie of that fight and all the chaos that happened, like that's not really his purpose. You, as an outsider, we could see the glimpses of the way in which his purpose was when he was Connie, his student, was just amazing. And then later when his former student invited him to come play and said, you made school fun for me. You could see his purpose as an outsider, but sometimes, like for us, we can't see our own purpose. And so by helping others, by centering ourselves with others, there's that peace, because we are where God wants us to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was interesting. I talk to the youth about this all the time, because I had this example in when we talk about our path for our lives versus God's path for our lives, and it does feel unsettled, and it does feel disruptive until we accept that this is where I'm supposed to be, and take that path. But like, I had a high schooler, she's in college now, but she decided, I get so emotional for her, but she decided, like, from early on, volleyball was it. This was my life. This was my path. And this is where, and now that I say that, there's 2 kids that went through this, but volleyball is where it's at. And this is how I'm going to college, and this is what I'm going to do. And then she blew out her knee, had surgery. And I just remember we were at youth group one day, and I was talking about, God's path versus your path. And she got very emotional. And I thought, wow, I'm speaking not directly to her, but I didn't intend to, but it was very obvious that hit her. Like, I thought I knew my path, but then God takes us on a different path, and that's really hard for us to accept sometimes, and that's where that trust comes in. And that's just like Joe in the movie. It was like, he thought he wanted this path, but I think, whether we put God in a Pixar movie or not, but he had a path, and he didn't recognize the gifts that he was giving in that path. And sometimes we all kind of go through that. Like, you have these gifts, and are you using them to the best of your ability or not? One of my favorite quotes comes from what is her name? She's funny. I think she's dead now. Anyway, it'll come to me at 3 o'clock in the morning. What is her name? Anyway, but I have it hanging in my bathroom downstairs, and it says, when I stand before God, I hope that I can say, I have no talents, I have no gifts left because I used all that you gave me. What is her name? Anyway, but
That's a beautiful.
we do. Yeah, it's like I hope I can say I don't have anything left because I used it all. And I think sometimes we don't recognize the gifts that we do have and how we're supposed to use them, because Joe had great gifts, but until he chose to strengthen them or recognize them, he wasn't satisfied. So
Yeah.
but
Well, and the movie kind of really speaks too of like your everyday moments and how like you don't even know, you could be in a grocery store and just end up talking with somebody, and in that moment is a sacred moment where like God is speaking to that other person or using your gifts to be able to help that other person. And
right.
how many times we rush through those moments, like we don't even pay attention to them. And so we miss God working in our lives. And so our lives can feel like meaningless and like, oh, I got to get to the purpose, when really our purpose is just being in the right spot and sharing God's love or hope or peace or whatever in that moment is needed. And we can miss out on God working through us if we're not paying attention.
Right. It's the whole Good Samaritan. Nobody on that road wanted to stop and give that person time because they all felt like they had a purpose. Like I have to go, the temple is expecting me, and because being the Good Samaritan and being there and sharing our gifts, there's sacrifice in that. And we have to sacrifice either our time or other things that we have with us, our food, our money. But sometimes that's where God is calling us. And sometimes if you hear it and you recognize it, but if you don't accept it, you're going to feel unsettled.
Yeah.
Kind of like Joe for a while until you decide to take those opportunities to serve and to love, and that takes sacrifice on our part, and that's hard. So, and Joe had to sacrifice his life, which is even harder.
Yeah. Yeah. And his dreams of what he wanted versus what was. So, yep. Well, I hope all you will watch the movie. It's a fun journey. It is a typical Disney, Pixar type film, so it gets a little crazy. Just roll with it. See how God speaks to you in it. I think that can also be in life with all sorts of different conversations. And if anything, enjoy the music because,
Yeah,
again, it's some fabulous music.
absolutely. I would say, and I just want to clarify, I keep looking at the wrong camera because I think this is on my phone, and anyway. Okay, so but the part where I fell asleep, when I was trying to think about this movie in terms of Christianity aspects, was like Pixar does such a great job of animation, and the
Yeah.
whole beginning is full of color and vibrance and detail, a lot of details. And when it started, I was like, oh, I love this. And then when Joe, gets in a coma and goes to the afterlife, it's very pastel, it's very undefined, it's very simplified. And I think that's where I was like, what? But if you think about it from Christianity, I was like, maybe it's because in life we get bogged down too much with every little detail, and there it's just simple. So I don't know, but hang in there. It's quite a ride. So enjoy it. Go watch it.
Go watch it. It's a great one for kids and families alike. You'll have a good time. So, and it's our last movie. So it's kind of that end of our sermon series, but a fun way to think about how God speaks to us
Yeah, and
through
it's
ordinary things.
Free on Disney, right? Free on Disney Plus.
Free on Disney Plus. So
if you don't have it, your neighbor does. Ask them for their login.
Well, April, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate you filling in as Barb is on a trip to visit her mom, and we pray for her and wish her well. And we hope to see you on Sunday, friends, for a fun time together. So we will catch you on Sunday. And if you have thoughts about the movie, leave them in our comments or email me as I'm working on the sermon this week. It'd be great to hear your thoughts and see the ways in which God is speaking to you through the movie. So
absolutely.
All right, my friends. Take care. We'll see you later.
See you
Bye.
guys.